The wind whispered to the crumbling gravestones of Millstone Cemetery, carrying the faint scent of damp earth and decayed flowers. A lone figure moved in the shadows, the gravel crunching under boots that had long forgotten comfort. At his side, a black German shepherd Duke refused to advance, his growl low and resonant, vibrating in the cold night air. The townsfolk had long avoided this graveyard, murmuring of things buried that should have stayed buried. Yet Duke would not be swayed, his amber eyes locked on a weathered tombstone, as if sensing a secret decades old. If you enjoy stories that grip you in silence and shadow, hitting the like and subscribe button helps me bring more tales like this straight to you. The first whispers of dawn stretched across Millstone, painting the horizon in bruised purple and amber. Mist clung to the low hills like a living thing, curling through the skeletal trees that bordered the graveyard. Sheriff Ethan Mallory adjusted the strap of his worn leather holster, the weight of 30 years of small-town law pressing on him more than the gun ever could. At his side, Duke, his loyal German shepherd, sniffed the cold air, ears twitching at sounds too faint for human ears. Ethan had been called to Millstone Cemetery 3 nights in a row. The townsfolk, quiet, suspicious people, spoke of Duke refusing to leave a particular section, and murmurs about old secrets surfaced between bites of breakfast and hushed exchanges at the diner. But Ethan didn't believe in ghosts, not really. Still, the dog's behavior gnawed at something older in him, a memory he couldn't place of a night long ago when Duke, or a dog like him, had appeared on his family's doorstep. The gate creaked under Ethan's push as he stepped onto the gravel path. Mist coiled around his boots, cold and wet, and the smell of earth after rain filled his nose. He crouched beside Duke, who was now pawing the ground near a cracked, moss-covered headstone. "What is it, boy?" Ethan murmured, brushing a hand over the dog's fur. Duke's growl deepened, a vibration that seemed to echo from the earth itself. Ethan's eyes followed Duke's gaze to the tombstone. The name etched that was nearly illegible. Clara Whitmore, 1958 to 1972. The stone had sunk unevenly into the soil, leaning as if it were hiding something beneath. Ethan ran his fingers along the moss, feeling the depression beneath the surface, the hollow where dirt had shifted over decades. His stomach tightened. Something about the grave felt wrong. A snapping twig broke the silence, and Ethan turned sharply, hand hovering near his holster. A figure emerged from the fog, a man in a threadbare jacket, his eyes cautious but curious. "Sheriff," the man said, voice hoarse. "I thought I was the only one who still came here." Ethan's gaze narrowed. "You live near here?" "Near enough." The man, Carter Hayes, had the look of someone carrying more than just years on his shoulders, lines etched deep from both sun and secrets. "Duke, he's not usually wrong about things. That grave, there's a reason he won't leave it." Ethan studied him. Carter had been a friend once, decades ago, before rumors, lies, and a business deal gone wrong had driven a wedge between them. The tension in Carter's jaw, the careful avoidance of Ethan's eyes, reminded him how fragile trust could be in a town like Millstone. "Why now?" Ethan asked. "Why after all these years?" Carter didn't answer immediately. He stepped closer to the headstone, knelt, and brushed aside the dirt with hesitant fingers. Some things you don't realize are buried until the right person or dog comes along." His voice faltered, and he glanced at Ethan, eyes flickering with a shadow of guilt. Ethan squatted beside him, feeling the chill seep through his jeans. "What are you talking about?" Carter inhaled sharply. "Clara Whitmore, she didn't just die of the illness everyone believed. His words caught his throat, and he shook his head. "I shouldn't say." Duke barked, loud and commanding, and suddenly the ground beneath the gravestone shifted under Ethan's hand. A small depression appeared, revealing the corner of something wooden, worn, and darkened with age. Ethan's pulse quickened. He pulled at it gently. It resisted at first, then came free with a muffled groan of decades-old hinges. A box, crudely nailed and water-stained, sat between them like a coffin's twin. "What the hell is that?" Ethan whispered. Carter's eyes were wide. "You weren't supposed to find this." "Not yet." Ethan ignored the warning. He pried the lid open, and a wave of decay and mildew rose, choking in the morning mist. Inside lay a collection of letters, brittle with age, and a small leather-bound diary. But beneath the papers, something heavier, metallic, caught the light. A locket, tarnished, with a photograph pressed inside. A child's face, smiling, but the eyes were hauntingly familiar. Duke whined softly, nudging Ethan's hand. The dog's instincts were uncanny, almost human in their intensity. Ethan felt a chill crawl down his spine, a cold recognition he couldn't place. Carter swallowed hard. It's her? Clara. And that boy, he didn't just disappear. Ethan's stomach nodded. Disappear? Carter nodded, voice low. 30 years ago, there was an accident, or maybe it was something worse. People wanted to forget. I wanted to forget. But Duke, he never forgets. The weight of the words pressed on Ethan. Memories he didn't realize he had begun to surface. A child crying near a riverbank, an argument between two men in the night, a family shattered. He shook his head. You're saying someone covered this up? Carter's gaze dropped to the locket. Not just covered it up, buried it. And not just here in this graveyard, but in every mind that could remember. Until now. The air grew colder, the mist thickening, curling around their legs. Ethan closed the box slowly, careful not to disturb the fragile contents. We need to get this somewhere safe. Evidence. If what you're saying is true. Carter nodded, but his eyes betrayed a deeper fear. It's not just evidence. This will change everything people believe about Millstone. Duke barked again, more urgent this time, then turned his gaze toward the far edge of the cemetery, where the fog clung like a wall. Something, or someone was watching. Ethan followed the line of sight, hand on the butt of his gun. He felt the unease in his gut, the feeling that every grave around him wasn't just a resting place, but a silent witness. Let's go, Ethan said, his voice low. Back to the station. We sort through this. Carter hesitated, glancing at the headstone, then back at Ethan. You sure you're ready for this? Once it comes out, there's no putting it back. People will hate us for digging up the past. Ethan met his gaze evenly. Some truths don't stay buried forever. As they walked back through the mist, Duke stayed close, occasionally looking back at the gravestone, a silent sentinel guarding the past. And somewhere in the distance, a crow cawed, a sharp, accusing sound that echoed over the hills, as if Millstone itself knew its secrets were stirring. For Ethan, the morning felt heavier than the night, as if the sun had risen only to expose what had been hidden for 30 long years. And he knew deep down that the small box and the lock in his hand were the first threads of a story that would unravel everything. Friendships, loyalties, and the fragile piece of Millstone itself. The graveyard behind them seemed to breathe, shadows stretching longer as the mist rolled back, and Duke refused to leave, pawing again at the dirt. Something waited beneath the surface, and it was patient, very patient. The station smelled of stale coffee and old paper. Ethan set the box on a metal table under the harsh fluorescent light. Duke at his heels, ears twitching at every creak of the building. Carter leaned against the wall, arms crossed, eyes shadowed. Outside, the town of Millstone moved with its usual quiet rhythm, oblivious to the storm of history about to break through its fragile calm. Ethan carefully lifted the locket, brushing off decades of dust. The photograph of the boy inside made him pause, a haunting familiarity in the shape of the face, the curve of the jaw, as if some forgotten memory were pressing against the surface of his mind. Carter's voice broke the silence. That boy! He wasn't supposed to exist. He was supposed to vanish along with Clara. Ethan frowned. Disappear how? Explain clearly, Carter. Stop dancing around it. Carter sighed, running a hand through his thinning hair. Back then, 30 years ago, there was an accident, or maybe it was intentional. Clara was involved with someone important in town. Someone with influence. She became inconvenient. I was just a kid in it, trying to survive. But that boy, he survived, and no one was supposed to know. Ethan's hands trembled slightly as he opened the diary. Pages yellowed and brittle. The handwriting was small, precise, almost obsessive in its detail. Clara had chronicled her fears, naming names, recording threats, her paranoia growing with every entry. Duke growled low in his throat, and Ethan felt a shiver run down his spine. The dog's instincts had never been wrong, and right now, They were screaming at him that the danger hadn't passed. It had only shifted. Carter rubbed his face, eyes darting to the diary. Some of the people she wrote about, they're still alive. They built lives, families, reputations. If this comes out, his voice faltered, they'd do anything to bury it again. Ethan leaned back, staring at the box and the locket. So we're sitting on a powder keg. One wrong move, and it blows the whole town apart. But burying it again? That's not an option. A knock at the station door made Duke snap to attention. Ethan moved quickly, hand on his gun, heart thumping. A young officer, pale and jittery, entered. "Sheriff, there's someone at the graveyard. He says he saw Duke digging again. Says he thinks someone's hiding there." Ethan exchanged a glance with Carter. "He's lying, right? Just a kid spooked by the dog." Carter shook his head. "No, Duke doesn't get spooked." Within minutes, they were back at the cemetery. The early morning mist had burned off, leaving a brittle chill in the air. The section where Clara's grave rested was freshly disturbed. Duke was pawing at the earth, growling low, teeth bared. Something had moved in their absence. Ethan crouched beside the headstone, examining the soil. Small footprints, not large enough for an adult, led away into the shadows of the trees. He frowned. "Someone's been here recently." Carter's face darkened. "That's impossible. No one should know about this place." "Not really." A sound like a whisper carried through the trees. Ethan's gaze snapped to the line of fog curling between the headstones. "Show yourself." His voice cracked over the empty graveyard. Then a figure emerged. A man mid-40s, unkempt, eyes sharp and calculating, walked slowly toward them. "Sheriff Mallory," he said smoothly, voice polite but cold. "I didn't expect to see anyone here this early." Ethan's hand moved instinctively to his holster. "And you are—" The man smiled faintly, unsettling in its calmness. "You could call me a concerned citizen." His eyes lingered on Duke, who growled, hackles raised. Or perhaps someone invested in keeping old secrets buried. Carter stiffened. You were supposed to be out of town. I thought you left Millstone years ago." "I left, yes," the man said, tilting his head. "But Millstone never leaves you. And some things you never forget, especially when someone finds a box meant to stay underground." Ethan's pulse quickened. "Explain yourself." "Now." The man stepped closer, the gravel crunching under his boots. Clara Whitmore, she found out too much. 30 years ago, she kept records of what happened that night. Names, details, a whole chain of decisions that led to a child disappearing. "That child, you found him." Carter's eyes widened. "You," he faltered. "He's lying." The man shook his head, calm but terrifying. "I tell the truth, Mr. Hayes." The town wanted silence, and you helped him achieve it. His gaze slid to Ethan. "But now, someone has unearthed the past, and that someone, your dog, is relentless." Duke lunged, teeth snapping inches from the man's arm. He yelped, backing away, and Ethan grabbed the dog, holding him firmly. The man didn't flinch. "He's clever," he said softly, almost admiringly. "Like his master, I see." Ethan felt a surge of anger, fear, and disbelief. "You're saying all this, and you've done nothing for 30 years. "Sometimes inaction is the easier choice," the man replied, "until someone forces your hand." His eyes flicked to the open box in Ethan's arms. "And now, it seems, fate has forced your hand." The tension between them hung like a live wire. The man turned, stepping back into the mist, then paused. "Consider this a warning. Some stones should never be lifted. Some graves never disturbed." And then he vanished, swallowed by the fog. Carter's face was pale. "We can't leave it here," he said. "If he's right, if people find out, they'll come after us." Ethan nodded, gripping the locket tightly. "Then we move it. Keep it safe until we understand the whole story." The rest of the morning was a blur of cautious planning. They transported the box and locket to a hidden storage room behind the station, a place Ethan had once used to hide evidence in cases that had gone sideways. Duke never left their side, growling at every sound, eyes scanning the shadows. Hours later, Ethan sat alone, flipping through Clara's diary. Each page revealed more than fear, desperation, betrayal, a careful mapping of people she trusted and those who betrayed her. Names repeated, connections emerging like a web. And the boy, the missing child, was at the center of it all. He looked up as Carter approached. "You realize what this means, right?" Carter asked quietly. "If we expose the truth, Millstone will turn against us. Friends, family, they'll see us as traitors." Ethan's jaw tightened. "And if we don't, then the town keeps its lies, and the boy, whoever he is, remains a ghost." The weight of their choices pressed on them both. Ethan stared at the locket, fingers tracing the faded photograph. The boy's eyes seemed to follow him, pleading silently, demanding justice from a past that had refused to speak. As night fell, Duke paced near the door, ears pricked. A sense of unease settled in Ethan's chest, a feeling that something or someone was circling, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. Outside, the fog rolled in thick and fast, swallowing the streets and swallowing the station in an almost oppressive silence. Ethan knew this was only the beginning. The buried secrets, decades-old betrayals, and moral compromises of Millstone were waking. And when they struck, nothing would ever be the same again. Carter's warning echoed in his mind. Some graves should never be disturbed. Ethan clenched the locket. Some graves, he thought, need to be opened. The fog had returned, heavier now, rolling over Millstone like a living tide. Street lamps cast weak, trembling halos over the damp pavement. Sheriff Ethan Mallory drove slowly through town, Duke rigid in the passenger seat, ears twitching at every distant sound. The creak of shutters, the whisper of wind through abandoned porches, the faint rustle of leaves. Somewhere, hidden in the shadows, history waited for its reckoning. Back at the station, Carter paced, glancing nervously at the metal box and locket on the table. "We can't keep this hidden forever," he said. "Someone will come looking, and when they do, they won't leave empty-handed." Ethan's eyes were hard, steady. "We protect the boy. That's the priority. Millstone can wait." Hours passed in tense silence, broken only by Duke's low growls and the occasional creak from the old building. Then the front door rattled violently, a sudden force that sent papers skittering across the floor. Ethan grabbed his gun instinctively, Duke at his side, growling, teeth bared. The door swung open, and the man from the cemetery stepped inside, calm and unhurried, eyes cold. "I warned you," he said softly. "Some grave should stay buried." Carter's face turned white. How did you find us?" The man smiled faintly. "I never left." His gaze fixed on the box. "And now it's time to end this." Ethan's pulse thundered. "End it? What are you talking about?" The man's hand dipped into his coat, but instead of a weapon, he produced a worn envelope, sealed with a faint imprint of a childhood crest. "You don't understand," he said. "I'm not here to hurt you. I'm here to finish what Clara started." Carter's brow furrowed. "Finish what?" The man stepped closer to the box, hands steady. "Clara's diary isn't the whole story. The truth isn't just in writing. It's in memory, in blood, in the choices we make and fail to own. The boy, he's here. You've held the key all along." Ethan's mind raced. "The boy, you mean he's alive?" The man nodded, handing the envelope to Ethan. Inside, a folded photograph tumbled into his hands. It was a boy, maybe 10 years old, eyes sharp, standing with a man Ethan didn't recognize. Yet something in the child's gaze sent a chill down his spine, the same haunting familiarity he had felt with the locket. Duke barked, frantic, then bolted for the door, nose to the ground. Ethan followed, gun ready, as the dog led them through the streets, past shutter houses and silent yards, toward the edge of the town cemetery. There, half hidden in the mist, crouched a small figure, a boy no older than 10, but with the same sharp, searching eyes as the photograph. Carter exhaled shakily. "It's him." Ethan knelt slowly, speaking softly. "It's okay. We're not here to hurt you." The boy flinched, retreating into the shadows. Who are you?" he whispered. "My name's Ethan," the sheriff said gently. "I'm a friend. Duke is a friend, too." The dog sat, obedient, watching the boy carefully. Carter stepped forward cautiously. Clara, she trusted no one, but she left us the path to find you. You've been hidden for a reason, but it's safe now. The boy's eyes flickered, uncertainty and relief warring across his face. He stepped closer slowly, drawn by Duke, drawn by the presence of people he didn't yet trust, but somehow recognized as allies. And then the twist hit, a sudden gut-wrenching truth. The man who had come to the station, the one claiming to finish Clara's work, was the boy's father. Not just a stranger from the shadows, but the very person responsible for the cover-up 30 years ago. His eyes, once cold, softened as he watched the boy, a lifetime of guilt and fear etched deep in his face. I thought you were gone, the man whispered, voice breaking. I never wanted this, never wanted to hide you. Carter turned sharply. You're the reason this all happened? After 30 years. The man nodded, silent tears running down his cheeks. I made mistakes, terrible ones, but now you found him. And maybe there's a chance to make it right. The boy's gaze shifted between Ethan, Carter, and the man, suspicion and longing warred in his eyes, but slowly, carefully, he took the man's outstretched hand. Duke nudged the boy gently, a quiet affirmation of trust. Ethan exhaled, a wave of exhaustion and relief washing over him. 30 years of silence, lies, and fear were collapsing, but a new possibility, a fragile hope, was emerging from the wreckage. Later, as the sun rose over Millstone, painting the cemetery in gentle gold, the town remained unaware of the truth uncovered in its shadows. Ethan, Carter, and the boy's father, now reunited, stood by the old gravestone, Duke at their side. Carter broke the silence. You know, this town will never be the same. Ethan nodded. No, but maybe it can finally start healing. The boy, clutching the locket and the diary, looked up at Ethan. Well, will they forgive me? Ethan knelt, eyes level with him. Forgiveness isn't always immediate, but truth is the first step. And you survived when so many wanted you to vanish. That's something worth remembering. The wind shifted through the trees, carried with the faint scent of damp earth and decayed flowers, the same as decades ago, but this time it felt lighter, almost cleansing. Duke patted softly around the group, the gentle thud of his paws grounding them in the moment. The past, long buried beneath lies, fear, and silence, had been unearthed. Painful truths had been confronted. The morally gray choices of the adults who once claimed to protect the town were laid bare, forcing accountability. And yet, amid the ruins of betrayal and guilt, a quiet, fragile hope had emerged. Ethan looked down at the boy, feeling a swell of something he hadn't in years. Quiet triumph, not from power or law enforcement, but from the act of preserving life, truth, and memory. Carter whispered beside him. 30 years of silence gone. Ethan nodded. But maybe now, Millstone can finally speak again. Duke nudged the boy one last time, tail wagging softly, before sitting obediently. The boy smiled faintly, a small, cautious light returning to his eyes. In that moment, the graveyard was no longer a place of fear, but a threshold, a bridge between the darkness of the past and the promise of a future that hadn't existed before. The sun rose higher, shadows retreating. And for the first time in 3 decades, Millstone seemed to breathe. The truth had been unearthed. The boy had been found. And beneath the quiet, lingering mist of the cemetery, the town's long-forgotten heart began to beat again.